This video, I want to discuss a few things you may have missed in episode 3, as well as my overall thoughts and breakdown of the episode. Alright, so first up we have Jon Snow meeting with Missandei on the beach, as well as with Tyrion and Davos. Davos mentions that he's been to the Summer Isles where Missandei is from, and he mentions that there are butterflies and palm trees, and Missandei doesn't quite respond, but she looks over and smirks at him. He mentions that this place was beautiful. Now, a lot of people think that, that could be, a sign that Missandei is not actually from there, as she would have had a remark saying that, yeah, the palm trees are awesome, or yeah, the butterflies are beautiful. I don't think that's the case. The problem here is that Davos is referring to the place where Missandei was sold into slavery as beautiful. Her being from there and that traumatic experience having happened to her, I doubt she would call that place anything close to the word beautiful. The reason why I bring this up is because a lot of people think that Missandei will in fact be one of Daenerys' 3 betrayals. I don't think Missandei is going to be a betrayer. I think she is exactly who she says she is. The main cause of this theory is that there was a deleted scene that hinted at the fact that one day Missandei would betray Daenerys. I do not think that's the case. Tyrion and Jon do share an awesome moment. They refer to each other as the titles and then give each other that smirk. Tyrion calls Jon Snow the Bastard of Winterfell. Jon calls Tyrion the Dwarf of Casterly Rock. He's actually saying a polite way because Tyrion has several nicknames. Dwarf is one of the more polite terms. But they ultimately end up talking about Sansa, saying that Tyrion remarks how Sansa's smarter than she lets on, and Jon Snow says, yes, she is showing how smart she is. And that's awesome because we have a really good moment with Sansa coming up in a bit. That moment where Jon says, yeah, but I'm not a Stark, and then Drogon flies by, that could be probably one of the most subtle, and I'm being sarcastic here, ways of foreshadowing that Jon Snow is in fact half Targaryen. He is a Stark, but he's also half Targaryen. We're shown that Melisandre is actually witnessing this first meeting, or this re-meeting between Tyrion and Jon, and she's up on a cliff, and Varys walks up behind her, and he mentions that as much as this guy is your savior, referring to Jon Snow, I figured you would be down there greeting him on the beach. Now this is interesting because Varys is kind of being an asshole. He obviously has gotten rid of the Red Priestesses in a sense because he's in Dragonstone, and they are obviously not there with Daenerys, so the fact that this other Red Priestess has come around, Varys is going to take it upon himself to go and try to, send her off. Thing is she's already planning on leaving. Varys attempts to put her in place, one would say, but she ends up putting him in place by saying, I will leave now, but I have to return. I'm going to die in a strange land, just like you. And then that eerie music that starts playing, the same music that they used to play back when they were on Dragonstone before, and it was Stannis and Melisandre. This scene could be referring to the voice in the flames that Varys heard when he was a boy, when his root and stem were tossed into the flames. Now, if Melisandre is in fact actually going to Volantis, I believe there could be 2 reasons why she would travel there. One, it could be because she's trying to find a blacksmith who is capable of wielding and forging Valyrian steel. This is the same place where Tywin got his blacksmith that reforged Ned and House Stark's Valyrian steel sword Ice. So she could be going there to get someone who could aid Jon in forging Valyrian steel, or she could be going there to meet with Kinvara. Kinvara is the high priest of the Temple of Volantis, so she could be going there to touch base and mention about Jon Snow. I don't really think Melisandre seemed too interested in serving Dany. She did send her a message. She did tell her that she does have a role to play, but I think she could be going back to touch base with Kinvara, and maybe they can combine their information. Basically, we have Jon Snow who could fit the Azor High Prophecy, and you also have Daenerys who could fit the Azor High Prophecy. I think she is going there to explain to Kinvara how Jon Snow was actually brought back to life by their Lord and Savior, R'hllor. Then we cut to Jon Snow and Daenerys actually meeting in the throne room. Daenerys has her huge list of titles, and I loved Missandei's way of delivering these titles. When she came on to the word breaker of chains, she goes, breaker of chains. Like, I felt a little bit of hip-hop come through, maybe a little bit of London grime. Davos's first attempt at listing Jon Snow's titles, well, they're really short, and then Jon Snow mentions to Daenerys that he needs her help. Daenerys then mentions that she's got all these Dothraki and 3 dragons. Why would she need Jon Snow's help? And then that's when Davos steps up and says, look, this is all the stuff that Jon Snow has done. He's bled for his people. He's the first to unite Northern men and Wildling men and lead them together in the same army. He's done a lot of great shit too, just like you, Daenerys. Maybe you should have a bit more respect for him. Honestly, I think the theme of this whole conversation with everyone is no one really has respect for each other. Like, yes, Tyrion and Jon Snow respect each other. That's brought up when Jon says, do you think I'm a liar? Do you think I'm a madman? Tyrion's like, no, I believe that you would not sit here and lie to us, but what we're going to see in these next couple episodes is some moments where they will have to have a little faith in each other, and then that respect will grow from there. Respect is earned, not given. Varys then breaks the awkward silence with news that a Greyjoy ship has returned and news of the battle. So then Dany tells Jon that, pardon my manners, we'll have supper sent to you. And Jon asks, am I a prisoner? And Daenerys says, not yet. Basically saying like, yes, sort of. We took your boat. We took your weapons. You can't leave yet. We'll continue this conversation at another time. It's funny that Varys shows up when he does, which is right after everything is said, where he could have been there explaining to Daenerys how Ned was, who Ned was as a person, and how Ned did not want him to send people to go poison her, but this dude showed up too late. I'm assuming there are two different Greyjoy ships that survived that battle, because we do have Theon showing up after that, and then this ship gets there first. I feel like Theon would have already came up, so his ship is likely right behind the Greyjoy ship that we do see showing up after Melisandre and Varys continue their conversation. Then we cut to Euron parading his gifts for Cersei through the streets of King's Landing. Now, it is known in the novels that all of Euron's gifts are poisoned. So it's interesting that the fate of Tyene, she ends up being poisoned the same way that Ellaria poisoned Myrcella back in season 5. So Cersei returning the gift is returning the gift of death to Ellaria, where Ellaria will be forced to sit and watch Tyene rot. The question is, does Tyene have an immunity since it's the same poison they used to poison Myrcella? We are shown that she did have the antidote at one point. Euron does mention to Yara the fact that he has a crowd boner, or, you know, basically the fact that everyone is cheering for him is giving him an erection, and he pulls Yara close to him. I did notice that Yara, I felt like she might have had something to say, but she was like clenching her jaw shut the entire time, almost as if she might have had her tongue ripped out. Now, when you look in the novels, and like I had said earlier, all of Euron's gifts are poisoned. Basically, he gives gifts to Victarion, sends Victarion out to the Marine.